Hey, if you're interested in red dot sights or considering putting a red dot sight in your pistol, then this video may be perfect for you. I recently had a chance to sit down with James White of Shield Sights, and James is a competitive shooter and has competed all over the world shooting IPSC for the United Kingdom's handgun team and is co-owner of Shield Sights. With over 20 years in the business, James is one of the most knowledgeable people around when it comes to shooting and developing red dot sights. And in this upcoming interview, we talk about product development, pros and cons of different materials, and upcoming industry trends. So with that said, let's get to it. All right, James, so your family's been doing red dot sights for, what, 20 years? Since 96 or so?
Yeah, 23 years.
Yeah, what got you guys into it?
Well, my father was a competitive shooter, and he kind of helped the industry quite a lot to sort of develop products. And I met a guy that was kind of coming up with this concept of miniaturizing what was then a big tube red dot and getting it on top of the slide. So you needed the competitive shooter to be able to put enough rounds down range and check it out and ensure it was going to work all right.
Yeah, so you've been competing pretty much your whole life as well, huh?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, we both shoot for the UK now, and it's really the basis of what we do. We we want to make every shot that you take with a pistol a better shot, and that's kind of what the design concept comes from there.
Cool. So pretty much based, originally based in competitive shooting and then providing some sights for the military and everything, huh?
Yeah, so we ended up, because of what we were able to offer with the SMS, we were able to get into some contracts early on and then sort of start helping to develop newer products that ended up on military rifles, and all of a sudden you've got to make things bigger, stronger, heavier, you know. And
right.
It's kind of helped us piece together the right things we've needed to have available as products, and also helped us to drive our focus onto what we want to be offering.
Sweet. Well, right on. So obviously I'm not an engineer, but I know that the slide on a handgun moves really fast. So when you're putting a red dot sight on there, I can just imagine like the G-forces and stuff that are on that sight and on the battery and the electronics. Like, as a designer, like, what is the biggest hurdles going into designing a red dot sight? Okay,
so we measured the forces in a slide, and they're somewhere in the region of about 4,000 to 5,000 G. So you're right. I mean, it's a pretty harsh environment for something to be able to live through, and especially the amount of cycles that they have to put up with, the heat, the temperature, etc. So the hardest thing is making sure that the lens can stay glued in place, the electronics aren't losing contact or failing on you. And then you're trying to keep something small and miniature so it fits the slide correctly. And it works, in the long run. You've got to refine things, test things, and keep testing them to the point where you can get something that actually functions well. Glues is another one, like trying to glue a lens in and make sure it isn't gonna come loose. Right. Over maybe, what are we talking, like 30,000 rounds, 50,000 rounds? People want to be able to use their product as much as possible. Right.
Well, I saw the one pistol that's in the booth right now, 80,000 plus rounds.
I know, man. It's crazy, eh? It's crazy.
I wish I had the budget to shoot that many.
Yeah, I know. I don't know where these people come from. And again, this comes from this like competitive shooting kind of background. We had another guy post up recently. He's done 25,000 rounds in the last year. And that's the kind of feedback that works really well for us. And I think that's our niche, really, is that we can really make a product that can withstand that kind of damage. Because it is a harsh environment.
Totally. So with weight, just so you're talking like 5,000 Gs, a couple grams here and there could actually affect that.
Yeah, and when people started putting sights on slides, they were worried about the timing of the slide and whether that was going to slow it down. Where we had a polymer body and a polymer lens, it was obviously the lightest there was, really, so it's about 1/2 ounce, and that kind of helps. But we've worked out that you don't necessarily need, you could be offering probably up about 1.5 ounces without making any timing issues on the slide and stuff. So we've got a room to move if we wanted to make heavier products. But we like to keep things small and unique, and try and not make any of your view lost by what you're looking through.
Right. So along with design stuff, like what parts are most prone to failure? Like in general, not with your product or anything, just in general on red dot, like what parts would you see most susceptible of failing?
Okay, so the main thing that's the concern is the electronics, really. The contacts in the electronics is an easy area where something can wear out, again because of this reciprocal recoil going on all the time. So you need to make sure that you can pack out that space into the battery so there's the least amount of movement so things aren't getting wear and tear, I suppose. On top of that, you've then got a material quality in the glass or polymer lenses, because they can, break, move, and kind of be misplaced, which can, help you lose zero, which is not a very good thing to have happen on a site. Other than that, I think most of the materials we use nowadays are pretty strong and capable of, withstanding what most people want to use it for.
Cool. Like, so most of the major manufacturers of pistols are coming out with like a modular system, like the Glock MOS, and I guess Walther's coming out with a couple. I mean, it seems like everybody is jumping on that bandwagon. What do you see as a designer? Like, how do you have to adjust what you're doing to meet what the market's demand is? As in that modular system, specifically.
Yeah, for like Glock. Okay, so I mean, when Glock did that themselves, the only issue we saw was that the plate was very narrow, and the plate was all of the retention that the sight had on top of that gun, because it didn't screw into the slide, it screwed into the plate. So we felt we had to adjust it so that we could get a better secured position. Again, because of this recoil, the sight needs to be tied down as much as it can be. I think the plate systems themselves are fantastic. Obviously, a gun manufacturer needs to be able to offer a wide range so that anyone can pick any optic they want and offer it, or put it on top of the gun for that matter, So, but in doing that, there are some design concepts that they overlook, because you don't necessarily refine it to make it the best that it could be with the best product, or, particularly in our boat, it's about it co-witnessing, so getting it as low as possible. And you can't necessarily do that with custom plates people are going to be making. The gun manufacturers have got to consider money and cost into those plates, and the fact they might want to offer 4 of them per gun that they're selling. So I think it's quite hard for them to do it. I think it's great that they are. I'd like to think that down the road that some of them would start to pick sight manufacturers, or like SIG have done. SIG have actually started to have their own optics and put them together with a gun. That makes it easier for them to sell it. Maybe harder for the customer, because they might want a different optic, but it'd be nice to see people kind of make SKUs with a sight as well as offering the modular system, I think.
Yeah, I think it helps people dabble in the market and see if they actually want to get into a red dot. But
in the long run, what you really want is you want people to be, what you see is people go and buy a modular system, they try it, they become comfortable that the sight's going to function, and then they go, right, I'm going to go and have a slide cut because I'll get the best result that I can get.
You're not stacking tolerances, and you're getting it as low as possible. And
yeah, exactly.
Nice. Right on, man. So let's talk a little bit about materials, like materials that are going to go into it. We started out with a polymer body and housing and everything, and now we have aluminum. Like, what are the pros and cons of, say, polymer, aluminum, and like a stainless steel or even a titanium?
Okay, so I mean, really, one of the main differences is weight. There's quite a lot of strength in polymer because it forgives. Again, like when you look at pistol manufacturers now, they make a Glock system that's, it's a polymer frame. The SIG system's a polymer frame. So many of them are polymer framed, and that's because there's a lot of it's dampening, I suppose, when it comes to the shot patterns and stuff. And aluminium is a great product, and people want aluminium because it's metal. Everyone likes metal. It has a better kudos and a better strength kind of parameter. Really, between them, metal can bend, polymer can't bend, but it'll break at a stress point. So it's very hard to determine the difference. And really, what we need to do, I think, is test it more and set up some kind of standard where you can, what drop test are you going to do, what knock test are you going to do, to see where that strength comes in and what, which is better. Right. And in certain environments, for certain users, certain products are going to be better than others, and that's where we're going. We want to be able to offer all these different materials. We've done a titanium body before, and it was great. It seems really strong. It is a pain to machine, which means the cost is going to be a bit higher. And stainless, we're going to look at it. We're going to look at offering different materials so that people get to make that choice themselves about, what do I want and why do I want it? What I'm going to use the product for.
Awesome. So with the different materials and everything, I was like, how strong does a red dot sight actually have to be? I mean,
that's the big question, eh?
Yeah, because I just see a lot of stuff like you got the RMR, which is built like a tank. It's like an off-road vehicle for red dot sights. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But that's not for everybody.
Yeah.
Does it need to be that strong? And And just in general, like, what do you think in strength? You know, what do we need?
As a user, as a competitive shooter, I don't think I need the strength necessarily, because I want to see the red dot with the little amount of frame would be the best, because I'd get a red dot on my world without any obstruction, really, is the idea. There's obviously users out there that really want to use a hardened product. They're going to be environments where they might not get the opportunity to, be careful with their product as much as a competitive shooter might. So it really does come down to the users. Again, it's a user choice about, am I a risky user? Am I likely to be in environments where I need to have the extra strength? And I think really the best solution would be to have things that you can bolt on. Like we've got our winged mount, it's a wing mount system. It lifts the sight up off the base a little bit more, but it makes the product very, very strong and resilient. Obviously grows its outer size, but it's a way of doing it. Now I'd prefer to have something small, narrow, thin framed, and then add to it, rather than have something that's quite bulky and is built for accidents, really, rather than built for the shooter to make every shot better.
All right. So with any design, it doesn't matter what it is. There's a series of compromises that you have to make. I mean, if you want something super strong, it's going to be heavy and ugly. If you want something that's super light, it's going to be weak.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So how do you come up with like the perfect sight? And then as shield sights, so where do you come up with your compromises to come up with what you think is a perfect red dot sight?
Again, you've got to start from a user kind of profile. What does somebody want, or what do our customers want? To us, I think making something look good whilst having all the functionalities that it requires, getting it as low to the bore axis as you can. We have to give up certain items about bulking the product out and making it a little bit stronger. And I think it's very difficult to, and you compromise throughout design, I suppose, is the idea. As you move along, you kind of look at ideas, you kind of go, well, should we add it? No, maybe we won't add that to this product, we'll add it to the next product, because we want to get this product out looking as good as it can right now. Like with the RMSC, so 2018, we released the RMSC, and it's gone down like a storm, because it looks good on a gun. It fits the same footprint as our previous products, and that's really helped us to, I think, to sort of get into the marketplace, because it was something people weren't considering or thinking about how to get it on a subcompact. And funnily enough, it fits a lot of other guns because they're tapered at the top of the slide, so it looks the part.
Yeah. How do you think you did?
Huh?
Like, how do you think you did? Like customers' feedback. Like, what's coming back? Because that's to me that's the biggest thing. It's like, okay, we're gonna make these decisions based on size, strength, and functionality, but then in reality, it may not turn out.
Yeah.
It's like in my mind, it's like, oh, this is perfect. Yeah. But now it hits the market.
Yeah.
So what's the feedback been? And like maybe it's like, what are some examples of what's been coming back for warranty and whatever?
I mean, I think the feedback's been good, but you always get knocked by the occasional couple of people who want to just say, well, actually, I don't like your product, or it's not strong enough, or and if we had the time and we had the money, we'd probably try and solve all these problems for everyone, because we want to have the best red dot possible on the marketplace. And but you can't do that. You've got to kind of back out, which is where the compromise comes in as well. So on a return basis, I think we had it was less than 1.5% last year returns. So people are using the product, they're not having a huge problem with it in any way, shape or form. And I think that is shown, to us. And it's difficult because we're over the pond, we're in the United Kingdom, and we're not always at shoots, we're not always in the marketplace at all these events, being able to speak to people. SHOT Show's so good for us because we come and we see our fans, if you want to say, they come up, they talk to us, they tell us what's good about it. And yeah, the feedback's really good. It's really good.
Yeah. How some of the negative feedback I see is mainly in the lens.
Yeah.
And I know we've talked it. You guys have changed that all around. But so the polymer lens. Like actually, let's talk about lenses.
Yeah, let's talk about lenses. Yeah.
So a couple different ways you can go with a lens. Like, tell me the pros and cons of, say, a polymer, a glass coated polymer, and glass.
Okay, so I mean, the basis of the polymer is the fact that it's a softer material, but it's more resilient to knocks and bangs. I think originally when we started making it, it was the fact that, again, it could hold that recoil because it wasn't shattering. We've, found better ways to strengthen the glass, make thicker pieces of glass nowadays. And the polymer was the easy way to make the optical system, because it was quite hard to make an optical system that worked the size that we needed in glass originally. Glass is a far stronger material. It's far easier for somebody to clean it with their shirt, or treat it a little bit less carefully. And we're gonna make a glass lens now. We've decided we're going to release a glass lens throughout this year, and it'll retrospectively fit into the old bodies, which would be great. So customers can upgrade to it if they want. They'll be able to choose to buy a product with it if they wanted. And I think we really want to go down the road of the customer being able to choose, rather than us say, right, here's the product we think you should buy. I want to say, well, here are the pros and cons of each product or each item. You pick it and assemble it how you want it, and then you get your red dot personable to you.
Cool.
Hope so.
Yeah. So on the theme of lenses, you can have a coated lens or an uncoated lens. It's like, what are the pros and cons of coating versus non-coating? And actually, why do they go with a coating lens?
A lot of the time they coat a lens because they can turn the power down on the power system, so you end up with a longer battery life. But as you'll know from using some of those products, you end up kind of seeing the world wearing sunglasses through your red dot. Now, as a shooter, I always prefer to be able to see the world as clear as possible with the red dot, just because it seems easier, it seems quicker. I can't explain it scientifically, but in the long run, when I pick up something where I've got to look, one eye's kind of seeing the world through this shaded optic, and the other one seeing it normally, it's kind of hard to merge together. So they do it mainly for power. We tried to stay away from it because we prefer to have this clear system. One of the other negatives of going back to glass is the fact that when you actually make it, it's very easy to add a bit of magnification, and the tolerances have got to be very tight to remove any of that magnification, which again adds to this kind of blooming effect. So when you look through a product, it doesn't quite match in how your brain wants to put it together, because one eye's seeing the world normally, the other eye's seeing it through this red dot that the world's kind of altered slightly, if you understand me.
Yeah, totally. What's some of the cons of a clear lens? Because I've just seen feedback. You're in a dark room with a flashlight, and it's super bright and super backlit, and the dot washes away.
Yeah.
But you don't get that with a coated lens.
Yeah. So you aren't getting that with a coated lens because the target system you're looking at, whilst you're shining a light on it, is not being shaded by the sunglasses effect, as I'd call it. Yeah. So there's always negatives that come along with certain design elements. To me, again, for us and how we compete and what we do, at the moment a clear lens seems to be the best effective way of using a red dot. And yeah, there's going to be some times where you might need to use your flashlight, but the fact our system sits and co-witnesses in the slide, I think that kind of gives you you've got that redundant aiming mark if you need it.
Let's look into the future a little bit. Like, where do you see the future of red dot sights in the next 5, maybe 10 years?
That's a tough one, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess because in the industry as a whole, it's obviously getting way more mainstream. Yeah. More manufacturers are jumping on having modular pistols for red dot sights, but where do you see them going?
I'd like to see them getting near on something smaller, something more refined. I think we'll probably move away from analog controls and move to maybe some more digital controls of the red dot sights, which would be nice, because it would be nice to sort of control it from a different outset. Electronics are clearly going to get a lot better. I think you'll very easily start to see most manufacturers be able to make a product that can withstand a lot of cycles of the gun, because I think that's where most of the problems are at the moment, is that people are, the sight falls apart really. One of the hardest things for us, again, coming from a competitive shooting background, but it moves into any user really, is at what point do you say to somebody, you've probably put enough shots across that sight that you need to change it out before it lets you down when you don't want it to? Because I'm so chuffed to see this guy shot 80,000 rounds over that one sight. But it's like, how do you judge that? And I don't know how to put a system in place that allows them to judge how many shots they've shot or what they're going to do to replace it. So I think durability will be the biggest change that we'll see. I think things will become far more accepted because they work a lot better. And that'll be great for us. It's great for the red dot industry. You know, more and more people put them on their guns. I can't see in 5 years' time why there'd be a pistol without a red dot on top of it. It just seems the way to go.
Right on. So just kind of wrapping it up, like what advice do you have for just a consumer that wants to buy a red dot sight, but there's a lot of options out there. Like what should they shop for? What should they be on the look for? And
if they had the opportunity to go and trial stuff, I'd go to the range and try it, because there's a lot of different concepts about how high it could mount off the gun, whether it's off a frame mount, you know, it depends what you're using it for. I'd go and trial stuff. A lot of people pick them up. If they've shot a lot, they pick them up, they try and find the sight and picture, and they present the gun and they cannot find the dot because a lot of sights are a lot higher up. So they benefit from picking our sight up and going, oh look, I can see it because it's kind of in line with where my iron sights always are. New users don't necessarily need to worry about that as much, you know, because they haven't yet become accustomed to presenting a gun and finding a normal sight picture, so they can present a gun and find a sight picture that's slightly higher up. I would trial stuff. It's the best thing. It's the best thing I think you can do. You'd be able to trial the differences in the lenses and see what feels most comfortable to you. Makes you feel a better shooter, because that's what it's all about. You know, you want to feel good at what you're doing, because that'll make you perform better, I think.
Yeah, I think trying out your sight or whatever is the way to go. Like I always tell people when they're just wanting to buy a handgun, I'm like, hey, all handguns are reliable. I mean, the lawyers and all the litigation over the years has really mandated that every pistol has to have a certain amount of reliability, and they're all going to function pretty well. It comes down to what fits in your hand better or best. You know, so like go out and try it, point them out there and see. So obviously it goes right in with the red dot sights.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. And again, certain systems are going to work better for users, you know, with certain handguns with certain red dots. So the larger quantity of guns that you can try with red dots on, I think that's got to be the way to go. And it's, you know, it's a good system to employ. I mean, if you get the opportunity to go to shows and pick things up, that's going to teach you a lot. You know, you're going to see a lot of different ways that people mount sights and how they use them. And speak to users, you know, go and speak to somebody at a match, go and speak to a police officer that's been carrying it, because you get such great feedback from people in that. They'll give you the pros and the cons, and hopefully they'll help you, you know, judge the right route for you.
Yeah.
And you get the right product.
Well, cool, man. Well, hey, man, I appreciate you taking the time to come talk with us and spreading out some of that wealth of knowledge, and hopefully that helps out some of our viewers. So
yeah, thank you, man. Thanks for having me, man. It's
awesome.
Great. Cool.
So yeah, hope this helps you guys out, and tune in to Shooter Opinions, subscribe, and we'll see you guys at the range.